It's another edition of the Creighton Basketball Newsletter. I'm Jon Nyatawa with the Omaha World-Herald, reacting to another pretty eventful week in Jays hoops and setting up what should be, obviously, it's a potential landmark week. For the second year in a row, Creighton's in contention for a Big East regular season championship. The Jays lost to Xavier on Saturday and needed some help, and then they got it. Butler upset Villanova one day later and suddenly put Creighton basically back in the same spot that it was at a week ago. The Jays had to win out to earn at least a share of the title, and now they have to win out to win a title. If Creighton can beat Villanova on Wednesday and beat Butler on Saturday, the Jays are Big East champions, and they'd actually win the title outright because the league is doing its final standings and the championship and its league tournament seedings. All that's going to be determined by winning percentage. Obviously, these teams have not played the same amount of games this year due to the pandemic, and so it was determined before the season that winning percentage would be the factor, the way that they would decide a champion and the league seeding for the tournament. So Creighton wins out. It's 15-5 in league play. That's a 750 winning percentage. And if it hands Nova a loss, and even if Villanova were to beat Providence on Saturday, the best that Villanova could finish in that scenario is 11-4, which is 733, a little bit less than 750. So we'll see. Creighton has all the, I guess it controls its own destiny, right? And that's what you want at this time of year. It's not going to be easy, obviously, for the Jays to beat Villanova for the second time. I think, and I'd have to double check this, and I probably should have before this video. My bad. Apologies. But I think that Villanova's only been swept in Big East play twice, by Creighton in Doug McDermott's senior year back in 2014, and then Butler got Villanova, I want to say it was 2018, maybe 2017. Butler beat them twice. I believe that's it. So it obviously doesn't have. I mean, Villanova rarely loses Big East games. Okay, over the last since the conference has realigned, like Nova's been the top dog by a considerable margin. So it doesn't often lose, but it obviously doesn't get swept very much. So it's going to be a tall challenge, and obviously to do it to go to the Finneran Pavilion, which it won't have the fan support. It won't be packed and crazy, but still, that's a really tough place to play, and Nova plays well there. So tall task for the Jays, but at least they got a chance, right? And that's all they can ask for. You're watching this video, so I appreciate it that you found it on our website. If you have not yet subscribed to the newsletter, please do. We obviously have a written version that goes out once a week along with this video, exclusive content for Creighton fans. Last week, I looked at Creighton's history in the Big East a little bit and where Creighton stands as it relates to other teams in this new Big East. Obviously, like I just said, Villanova's number one, but who's number two? I thought Creighton has a decent case, definitely a better case than it did maybe a couple years ago. I maybe gave the nod to Xavier still for its NCAA tournament runs that it's had since joining the league, but Creighton's creeping and moving up. So I wrote about that. I've written about Sharif Mitchell's impact defensively, free throw shooting, a ton of different stuff. A couple of recruits that Creighton has within that 2021 recruiting class that ranks top 15 nationally. It's content that doesn't necessarily fit in a traditional newspaper setting, but it's still interesting and in-depth and insightful and worth reading, I think. So subscribe and tell your friends, right? That'd be cool. I wanted to sort of look ahead just because obviously this week's huge for Creighton and the Jays could potentially win a Big East championship. And so I was kind of like browsing through my email, my Twitter handle, my Twitter replies, just to see how Creighton fans reacted to Saturday. Obviously, there's a little bit different. The narrative spins a little bit or changes a little bit after Villanova loses, and now Creighton's back in contention for a Big East championship, right there with all it can see the light at the end of the tunnel sort of thing. But the Jays have some work to do. And I was kind of curious what concerns fans had after Xavier and, what adjustments Creighton needs to make as it prepares for Villanova, and then obviously Butler at the end of the week. And then going into the NCAA or Big East tournament, then NCAA, so postseason. obviously there are things that happened on Saturday that were a little bit concerning that obviously if you're a Creighton fan, you don't want to see going forward. But so I was curious what you guys thought some of those things were. I wrote a lot about the defense on Saturday after the Xavier game, because to me that was a little bit of an anomaly if you compare what Creighton's done throughout the entire season to that game, where the Jays allowed 44 points in the paint to Xavier, gave up 22 assists. Creighton came into the game in Big East play, number 1 in 2-point opponent field goal percentage in the Big East, number 1 in opponent assist rate in the Big East, and yet Xavier did what it did, got into the heart of Creighton's defense and started distributing, playmaking, making shots, not always all the way to the rim, but like 8 to 10 feet, and created a lot of havoc for the Jays. So that was, to me, the one thing that stood out. But I can see the argument, and I think some fans made it, was that it might be an outlier, because if you look at the track record for what Creighton's done all year, it's done a pretty good job defensively, actually a really good job on the interior defensively. And so maybe that's just, you tip your cap to Xavier for being committed to a game plan and making some big time plays. I think what I heard the most was about Creighton's offense. The Jays ended up, they finished with 69 points, had a couple stretches in that game that were a little bit concerning. I think there was an 8-possession stretch midway through the first half where the Jays didn't score, no points, and Xavier used that period of play to build its lead up to 9. Creighton obviously roared back and got within 2 points at halftime, but then the second half started, and Creighton again had a stretch where I think it was 2 points over the first 8 possessions of the second half, and all of a sudden was down 10, and now it's trailing. So like that whole game, because maybe Creighton couldn't match the efficiency of Xavier from a scoring perspective, the Jays felt like they were chasing it and trying to get back in it, climbing uphill. And so the questions that I saw were about free throw shooting. That was probably number 1. And number 2 was Xavier's game plan. So we'll start with free throw shooting. Unfortunately, I know fans don't want to hear this, because here's the numbers. Creighton in Big East play leads the conference in 2-point field goal percentage at 64.1. In Big East play, Creighton is second in the conference in 3-point shooting at 36.9. Excuse me. Let me backtrack here. Creighton does lead the league in 2-point field goal percentage. That percentage is 56.2. Okay, so a little bit more than half of its twos. 3-point percentage, second in the league in Big East play, 36.9. Almost 40%, 37%. And then at the line, the Jays are 64. That's the 64 number. 64.1 in conference play at the free throw line, which is just puzzling. It doesn't make sense. You got a lot of good shooters that just for whatever reason are dealing with a mental issue, a block of some sort when they get to the free throw line. And I wrote about it about a month ago. Unfortunately, you don't see teams make a drastic improvement during the year at the free throw line. By this point, you kind of are who you are. Creighton has gotten a little bit better at times throughout Greg McDermott's tenure as seasons have progressed, but not significantly. So it might just have to be something that you deal with. And Creighton is good in a lot of other areas of the game. I just mentioned those shooting numbers. So I guess this is just one of the flaws that the Jays have to deal with, which I know from a fan's perspective is puzzling and frustrating. The other thing was Xavier's game plan. The Musketeers did what a lot of teams do. They pressed up really aggressively on the 3-point line because they didn't want Creighton shooters to take jumpers. And they kind of forced Creighton to operate a lot in a one-on-one setting on the interior. Now, normally Creighton's been really good at capitalizing in those spots. The Jays are, like I said, they lead the conference in 2-point shooting percentage. They're 7th in the country in 2-point field goal percentage, like 57.8%. So when they get in close, they capitalize. Against Xavier, they did not. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, I thought Xavier just played really good one-on-one defense, like especially in the second half. Marcus Zagorowski got a couple shots blocked. Mitch Ballock got one blocked. One thing that Greg McDermott noted was that Christian Bishop, when he isolated in one-on-one settings, he's been really good lately at that. He thought Xavier brought a little bit more help. Normally, Christian Bishop has the ball at the free throw line and Creighton has 4 shooters toeing the arc. He's got tons of room to work. But against Xavier, what Greg McDermott noted was that, well, there was another guy coming over to help and maybe forcing Christian Bishop into some spots that he didn't like. Bishop only ended up with 4 points. Now, he was in foul trouble, but so that was notable. And then Denzel Mahoney obviously struggled. He was 3 of 14 from the field. Now, all of that combined, like, I don't think you're going to see all of that together happen very often, but it did happen against Xavier. So it'll be up to Creighton to make some tweaks and and adjust, because obviously teams are going to try to replicate that blueprint, press out on the 3-point line, don't help as much as help as little as you can, because you don't want to leave Mitch Ballock or Marcus Zagorowski on the 3-point line, or Denzel Mahoney or DJ Damian Jefferson. So how Creighton takes that game film, makes some adjustments, will be crucial, I think, as the Jays, well, it's March, as they deal with this season now. It's in March. So that's all I got for you on this video. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for thanks for following our coverage, and we got plenty more. It's a big week, so check out omaha.com, and don't forget to subscribe to that newsletter. Appreciate you guys.